Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Black Lightning. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Obviously, there's a whole situation where Jennifer kind of has to come clean to her dad about everything that she's been up to with, Odell, and obviously at first it's kind of like, all right, he gave you a phone and everything. Well, you've been working with him on what kind of missions and stuff like that. It's like, oh, you went after the guys that hurt me, okay, but then it's like, okay, you blew up that data center, and it's like you potentially could have killed someone. She's like, I think I did. And obviously, for Jeff, because he ends up bringing it up again later on, it's like, once you go down that route, there's no coming back from it. He's done all he can to prevent Jennifer from going down that route. That's why he didn't want her to kill Tobias last season, so trying to protect his daughter, because obviously for her it's a complicated thing of Jennifer being like, you guys treat me like I'm a freak. The fact of the matter is you won't let me kind of be me, because at least Anissa, because everyone else's powers are different. Like Jennifer's powers, they're similar to Jeff's, but they are vastly different because hers just kind of build up, and if she doesn't release it, it's a whole thing. And it's just kind of like, Jeff has the freedom to kind of use his powers however he wants to. Anissa doesn't have to worry about the kind of charge up or build up that Jennifer does. Plus, she can use her powers whenever she wants to. But, so Jennifer's at this different situation. But at the same time, it's like, you can understand, and even Jennifer kind of understands now, that everything they do is to protect her because they don't want her to, especially Lynn, because obviously the way Lynn feels about powers and stuff like that, like if she could, she probably would have handled, obviously, she probably wanted to try and get Jennifer to go down the path of Jeff, where Jeff wasn't Black Lightning for that 9 years. So I think it's kind of a similar thing in that regard. Wanting your child to have at least some form of a normal life, but obviously it's like, well, at the time your powers are kind of out of your control, because for when you're a teenager, your emotions are all over the place. You think you're grown when in fact you're not at all. You think you know everything when in fact you don't. So that combined with, having the powers you do at your age, it's a whole thing in itself, But obviously Jennifer learning from her experience, with the multiverse, her witnessing Earth to Jennifer, seeing how evil she was and everything, realizing the route that she went down, that's what changed her tune. That's what made her realize okay, Odell is playing me. And that's why she was like, we got to kill him. But obviously for Jeff, it's like, we're not going to kill him. We're going to handle this a different way. We'll deal with him. But obviously that's an issue in itself. But I love when he's walking out and he's like, Brendan. And he's like, no, actually it's Brendan. He's like, honestly, I don't care. Stay away from my daughter. And she's like, Dad, I told you me and Brendan are just friends. It's like, me and your mom are friends. It's like, Brendan, do you know what a eunuch is? He's like, yes, sir. And he's like, keep that in mind. I'm like, yo, scary dad. And even he's like, yo, that's scary. And she's like, oh, you don't even know the half of it. So yeah, that's him scary as Jeff. Wait till he gets scary as Black Lightning. But I also love I don't know if they dropped this information before. Odell's like, oh, I can't go back to Gotham. I'm like, wait, what? You're from Gotham? Was that never going to be referenced? I swear I don't remember them ever talking about him being from Gotham before. I wonder, I'm like, it can't just be like, oh, that's a Crisis thing. Maybe because of Crisis, because everything technically takes place on everything is on the same Earth now. Because obviously Black Lightning is probably still going to make sure that it doesn't coincide too much with the other shows. It's still going to kind of do its own thing, but it's obviously it takes place on the same Earth and everything, especially with the way they've set up the Justice League and everything. But the fact of the matter is, maybe just because of post-Crisis they can make those references now, because it's like, they could have made them before, and like I said, maybe they did. I just feel like I would have remembered if they referenced the fact is that Odell was from Gotham. They never really brought that up until now. Because it's like I never really cared where he came from, but it's like, I don't know. That seems like that has some significance. You're from Gotham, because obviously for him, he I if I could, I would go home because I have places prepared to protect only me. His places are fortified, so they are meant to protect him. But he can't leave all this behind, because basically, if he leaves all this behind, he knows shit's going to hit the fan. So was it Major Gray is trying to help him by all right, let's fortify all the other metas we have left, stabilize them using Tobias's marrow, while also chipping them so we kind of have an arsenal. And especially later on, because Major Gray is like, oh, we're going after the Pierces. We're going to kill them. And there was even this instance when she was talking to Khalil that you kind of see Khalil kind of like, I don't know, it's just the way he was kind of, it almost looked like there was something that kind of popped in his head, but he was kind of shaking it off. It's like hearing the Pierce name, it did something. It seemed like it registered something in his brain at that moment. I'm not quite 100% sure, but it felt like I caught that. But, maybe that was me reading too much into the whole situation. But regardless. Obviously, a big thing, too, is the whole Jeff situation. Jeff is majorly pissed to find out about this whole situation with Odell, that he goes to, Anissa, which, interestingly enough, she comes back with Grace, because Grace is like, okay, my powers and stuff like that, I got them under control now. I don't shift uncontrollably, because she knows it all stemmed from abandonment issues, but now she's like, I don't have to worry about that, because I know I'm solid because I got you, because she, Anissa's her foundation, so she has more control over her powers now. So she comes back. But what I thought was interesting, because I was actually waiting to see what Anissa was going to dress up as, and she dressed up as Lightning, and I was like, oh, very befitting. I guess it was like, nah, this is something the Black Lightning family's got to handle. So I thought maybe that's kind of. Did I say Thunder or did I say Lightning? I think I said Thunder. I hope. I kind of glazed over and was like, did I? Either way, if I said Lightning, I meant Thunder, and if I said Thunder, then I just sound crazy. Regardless, moving on. The fact of the matter is, handling that, obviously, Jeff went to tell Gambi about this, so they've orchestrated this whole plan, and they track down Odell, and they actually capture him. And it's like a whole thing of like, all right, now that we got him, what are we going to do? And it's kind of like, I love him and like, so you're alive, Gambi. And Gambi's like, yep. And the fact of the matter is, I'm ready. You taught me all that I know, so you know how much this is going to hurt when I torture you. And it's like, Black Lightning's not a killer. There's no way he's going to let you, or you're not a torturer either. And it's like, oh yeah, Jeff isn't. But Gambi's like, but I am. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this nail and I'm going to like take off your shoe and I'm going to nail your foot to the floor. I'm like, Jesus. But the fact of the matter is, because I even love Jeff being like, I told you not to mess with my family. Don't make an enemy out of me either. And you mess up on both fronts. And what's so interesting too is that he starts quoting Dr. King. And I even love Nissa being like, did this coward just quote Dr. King to us? And he's like, I'm not a coward. He's trying to say like, because I did actually know Dr. King personally. And the fact of the matter is, trying to say that you might look at what I do as evil, but I have the best intentions. And it's like, no, everything you're doing is, like the whole Issa situation. You killed him because he found out the truth that the president's like in cahoots with this whole situation. You're trying to give the president plausible deniability. But him, it's like, once again, he still thinks of himself as the good guy. It's like, I have to do extreme things because that's just what's necessary. Sacrifices have to be made. And we can't all walk away being... as he was quoting Dr. King, it was like, even in the worst of people, there's good, and even in good people, there's evil, trying to say that, like, no one's 100% clean in all of this. But what was interesting, though, is, like, they kept him talking and stuff like that, and then they stopped, and he was like, and Gambi was like, they're like, you got it? He's like, yep. And I was like, yep, they ended up tricking him. But obviously Jeff, kind of being his temper's high, ended up shocking Odell. Gambi had to stop him. And he's like, you don't need to do this. Like, it's so interesting because, like, it's not just Jennifer who's got a temper. Like, literally everyone in that family's got one. It's just all of them kind of like, when their emotions flare up, they flare up. I mean, it might be a combination of them being metas, kind of affect that as well, but it's just like each one of them can be very stubborn but very heated when the time comes, so obviously that turns into that situation. But luckily Jeff doesn't kill Odell, because their whole plan is to basically, like, I was like, all right, you're mapping his voice for something, and it's like, so basically they put the whole situation together to basically, they're trying to like fake Odell, use him to get the ASA to drop the barrier as well as leave town, trying to make it something official, so that this is their way to kind of get the town one step closer, taking it back, the people taking it back, So while this is all going down, Jennifer and Brandon, she's like, all right, you're going to learn some stuff about me. And he's checking, they're in Gambi's place, and he's like, whoa. The fact, because like, who works here? James Bond. And it's like, whoa, this is Black Lightning, and this is Thunder. And it's like, wait, And he's like, wait, you're lightning? And she's like, yeah, because she's like, the fact is, it's like, he's like, wait, but that means, she's like, yeah, my dad is Black Lightning and Thunder's my sister. And he's like, what? And I love that him being like, oh, so what's like, when do I get a costume? And she's like, no. And then he's like, but what's my code name or something? And I love that he's, geeking out in this moment. But obviously she ends up tracking down her family with, Odell, and obviously she's pissed because she's like, oh, thanks for not telling me about the fact that you found Odell. It's like, well, like cutting because you were dead set on killing him, because in her mind it's like killing him's the only way. I mean, like, you found another way with Tobias, but the argument could be like, well, that ended up blowing up in their faces because now Tobias is kind of, well, being used for good and evil, regardless of all that. So that's the whole complicated situation with that. So that's why but it's just a thing of like, oh, you didn't let me know. And it's like, they kind of had you kind of fly off the handle a little bit. Once again, I said it before, like, the entire family kind of has a tendency to do that, but you in particular can do that too, so it's understandable why they wouldn't tell you that they had Odell, especially because they had a plan and act that you weren't really privy to. But it's like, if they had actually told you the plan, you would have stopped them, because you were like, no, that's not going to be enough. This, you would have found reason to argue, and it's like, there's no time for arguments. They need to kind of get this done now. So there's that whole situation. But then sadly, while that's all going down, the ASA attacks. Lo and behold, who shows up but Khalil. And obviously this is Jennifer's first experience. The thing is, like, we know Gamby, Lynn, and Anissa knew. I can't remember, because I feel like Anissa told somebody. I think she told Jeff, didn't she? I don't remember. Or did she tell Gamby? I think she told Jeff, didn't she? Because Jeff didn't seem too shocked to see him, but it turns into a fight, which obviously, like, she's not understanding, like, what's going on, so she ends up stopping them from getting too heated in the fight with him, because she's like, Khalil, are you okay? And obviously he's sent there to kill all of them. At the same time, she's holding Khalil back. The fact of the matter is, the rest of the ASA is grabbing Odell and bouncing. And so, once again, the thing of, like, kind of why they don't tell you everything, because you kind of got, but then you can make the argument, Jennifer, it's like, I'm just as much a part of this team if you told me what was up, if you were stopped trying to protect me and treat, but that's the thing, in their eyes, in Anissa's eyes, you're still her little sister. You're always going to be her little sister, her baby sister. But the fact of the matter is, in Lynn and Jeff's eyes, you're always going to be their little girl. You're not even an adult yet. You're still in high school. You're still a kid in their eyes. So obviously, it's that complicated thing of, like I said, Jennifer kind of has a tendency to think she's kind of older and growner than she is. I mean, to be fair, she's going through a lot more than any normal kid her age would go through. Like, she's been through stuff only an adult would have been through, and lost what, you'd mainly see like an adult lose. You get what I'm trying to say? So it's a complicated situation where, like, both parties are at fault on both sides, because they should have prepared her better for that. Luckily, she was able to stop Khalil, but that's still, Odell got away, and they're like, well, looking at the tracking and stuff like that, he got out of Dodge, because I guess it's like, well, Odell can't stay here any longer. He's probably going to be operating stuff from the outside, and it might just be like we might have to just wash this. I don't know if it's going to be a thing of, sadly, we're just going to have to nuke, Freeland. That's what I'm wondering about. I mean, he has access, and especially if the president's, connected to all this, and you want to make sure the president, you might have to, like, suggest, like, there's some really dangerous stuff there, and maybe you make some lie that the entire town is, I don't know. You can also make it like, oh, the Markovians did it, to make it seem like the U.S. government didn't do it, when in fact they did. There's a lot to kind of do that potentially could cover that up, especially now that Odell was out of town, but, we'll see on that front. But what was interesting, too, is the whole TC situation, because it seems like he was able to talk to that chip inside of Khalil's head. So, obviously, I'm curious, is he able to turn it off? Because it seemed like he was communicating with it, because his eyes went from green to blue. So I guess that's supposed to mean that he's in communication with Khalil's subconscious underneath all that chip. So, like, he was able to kind of disengage it, or did Khalil actually, wake up? Or I guess it's like, maybe it's like I said, I feel like it's more so like he's got to be talking to Khalil's, like, subconscious with this whole situation. So, but obviously now Jennifer's pissed, because it's like, you guys weren't going to tell me about Khalil. Maybe I could have talked to him. Maybe I could have reached out to him. And it's like, now we're in this situation, but there's still some form of Khalil still in there. TC was able to kind of reach out to him. So there's that we got to figure out. TC obviously reveals to Gamby that, oh, the person behind all this was Lady Eve, but Gamby was like, well, it seems like she set that hit up well in advance, but because Gamby stays so well hidden and he rarely kind of stalks about in the shadows and stuff like that, even before the hit and everything, it took them like a year to find him, so that's why it took so long for the hit to finally come. It was set up way in advance, but they weren't able to find him until, last season. So, but it's like, oh, I don't have to worry about it. Lady Eve, she's dead. But then, I was like, because of that opening is kind of insinuating, obviously she's not. And obviously later on we found out she wasn't. We'll get to that in a second. But it was interesting because, TC wonders, why is Gamby working so hard for him? And that kind of lends itself to, the TC and Lynn conversation, which that's a whole thing in itself we'll kind of dive into. But I thought it was neat because it's obviously, once again, Gamby's helping TC so much because it's I'm responsible. He's one of the kids I'm responsible for turning over to the ASA. I thought, I was doing something patriotic, but he didn't realize that he was getting, kids hurt, under these circumstances, basically getting them taken away from the lives and the families and people they love and knew. And he didn't realize he was doing that. By the time he found out, he walked away. But for him, it's I owe this to TC. I can't undo all that I've done. Even me raising Jeff, kind of raising him as my own son, it doesn't clean my slate. But if I can at least save one kid from the mistake I made back then I've at least done something. I've at least saved somebody's life. So that's why he wants to stabilize her to try and make TC better, which he does. And even TC was like, why are you working so hard to kind of help me? And I like the line from Gamby being like, the fact of the matter is we don't get through this life alone. We all need somebody. And he's like, you're my new somebody. And I was like, I like that. Obviously, once again, Gamby's got his ulterior motives, which are altruistic in their own right. But obviously, it's still the thing of he's kind of hiding the fact is that hiding the truth. And the question is, when the truth comes out, how is TC going to respond? Especially when he heard that Lady Eve, it's like, oh, she was former ASA. He was almost like, wait, what? So hearing that Gamby's one, and it's despite what you're doing, it's you're still the one that took my life away from me. That's not going to be easy to stay, and that's going to be a very nasty bombshell that gets dropped. The question is, when and under what circumstances? I don't think it's going to be the very fortuitous timing either. It's going to be the most inconvenient time, I'm sure, but we'll ultimately have to wait and see. And on the subject of Lynn, circling back, the fact of the matter is Lynn is not doing well. She's still, going through withdrawal. Gamby was able to kind of set her up with kind of getting a backdoor system into the ASA, the pit place. And lo and behold, she ends up talking to Agent Grail, who obviously he's the agent that we've seen who's periodically been not okay with everything, because for him he's I thought I was doing a good thing for the service of my country and stuff like that, but now it's I'm involved with situations that are leading to kids getting killed. He's I didn't sign up for this. So he's if anything ever happens to me, this message is going to get out there that let them know what the ASA is really up to. And so he ends up working with Lynn, ends up bringing her purse. He said he didn't really look. He was tempted to look into it, to try look in her purse to find and see if there was any stabilizers, because it turns out Dr. Blair, in his attempts to do her work, he ended up killing 3 metas in the process before obviously getting a sound result. But Rayo didn't know what was inside her purse, the green light, and she popped some immediately, and you could definitely tell later on she's firing on all cylinders. The black circle on her, and I was like, ooh, that withdrawal, that's going. So she's good again for now, which is oh, that's still an issue. There ain't no because Gamby's unaware of her circumstances, because I guess Gamby doesn't know that she's hiding from Jeff, and because Jeff is the only one who knows, but I guess Jeff didn't really want to say anything to anyone else just because so much stuff is going on right now that he didn't have time. But it's yeah, Gamby and Jeff need to talk about that, but we'll see. But working with Grail, Lynn is planning on trying to break Tobias out to stop it so that they can't continue doing what they're doing. So if they don't have Tobias, they don't have the means to kind of keep making, stabilizing these metas and making them their weapons. So Lynn, it turns out, interestingly enough, has found a way to basically temporarily, and it turns out, I was wondering, it's like, oh, just regular people. It's like, no, she's learned how to temporarily give people specific metahuman abilities, and not just, like I said, not just people, not just humans, metahumans as well. So it's interesting because she was able to give the girl, because her code name is like Chameleon, gave Grail her ability of camouflage, but it seems like it lasts an hour. And so the whole plan is to kind of use that, plus some other, information, because she ended up disguising herself as Blair. She used that technology from Gambi to kind of disguise herself as Blair so she could get in to get to Tobias. And I even love Tobias being like, oh, I guess you did kind of think this through. The fact of the matter is, he's like, you thought I was your golden ticket. Turns out you're mine, because now Black Lightning's wife is going to be with me. So I kind of have you as leverage, against him. So obviously they managed to escape. And I love that, it's like, oh, something's not right. Grail hadn't showed up yet. And Tobias was like, you are stupid. You are dumber than I thought. And he tries to hit her. And it's like, yeah, you thought I'd be stupid enough to give you powers and not give myself some, and lay him out. Because I forgot who, she said Erica. And I'm thinking just the way it looked. And the fact, I think she's talking about the girl who had the power to absorb kinetic energy. I think that's what that was. So luckily Grail shows up, and it's like, and she's like, I had to go with plan B. It's like, oh, so they're about to take off. It's like, oh, something's going to go wrong. I don't know what, but something's not. And lo and behold, something terrible happens. Turns out the Markovians, get them at the end. And I'm like, that's interesting. So that's super messed up. I mean, I'm curious to see what that means. Did they take Tobias? Because obviously, because I'm about to say they need Tobias, because they're probably going to leave Grail, if not straight up kill him. They might take him just for information, but we'll see, because it seems like the main targets are Tobias and Lynn. So we'll see where things kind of go on that front. And then finally, the other aspect of this episode is obviously Lala expanding his territory, because he finds out there's another group nearby that's kind of running stuff that's not, not giving him his slice of the pie, the slice of the pie that, he deserves and everything. So he sends his home dude to investigate. And what is it? The place called the Ultimate O. One is like the Ultimate Opt. I think that's what it's called. But he goes looking through. I swear, wasn't one of those dudes like 2-bit? I swear that second dude was 2-bit, but maybe I'm mistaken. But then lo and behold, there's like Lady Eve's there. I'm like, oh. So it turns out, for one, this is her whole operation. It's like, how long has she been back? Well, she obviously has to have been back since sometime in between Lala's last visit to Lazarus, which is interesting. Like I said, if it wasn't for that opening, I never would have pieced it together that was her. Maybe other people were like, oh, that's obviously... I didn't piece that together until the opening show, the pod and everything. I was like, oh, so they're insinuating Lady... Because I was about to say, oh, that's interesting you bring that back, considering the fact that she's dead. I'm like, oh, not unless she faked her death or something like that. I was like, I'm pretty sure she was dead. It's like, well, no. I did kind of forget about... Right. There is the whole Lazarus situation of him being able to bring people back like he's brought Lala back. So it's like, that's not too surprising. So now it's a situation of Lala being like, okay, your operations are basically mine. You work for me now. And out of respect for all that you've done for Freeland for the past 20 plus years, I'm going to let this slide. And the fact of the matter is, you get to, not slide, but in the sense that I'm gonna give you time to come to your senses about this deal. So obviously it seems like Lady Eve has to continue with that, but we'll see. It's gonna be interesting too, because I think she's probably because she probably got the confirmation of, oh yeah, Gambi's dead. So it's like, okay, so she thinks Gambi's dead, but obviously Gambi's gonna go a little more, probably not as careful, because he thinks the person behind his hit, he knows it was Lady Eve, but he thinks she's dead. But now he's going to mess up, and Lady Eve's going to be like, I'm curious, what made her decide to put the hit out on him? I guess because of her past and everything, and Gambi would have compromised everything that she was trying to get. Well, because obviously Gambi wanted nothing to do with the ASA's plans and stuff like that, and obviously she was benefiting from it. So I guess that was the main motive behind wanting to get rid of Gambi. But still, it's going to be interesting when they find out each other is alive, because they both think each other's dead. So that's definitely going to be an interesting situation. I like that there are so many big moving parts going on with just like the ASA versus the Pierce families, and also this Markovian situation. But then at the same time, you have something like Lala's operation, which I'm like, it's still kind of small scale what him and the 100 are doing, but it's still like, what's that going to turn into? You know, we'll ultimately kind of have to wait and see where all this kind of takes us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.